Okay, we are on fractions. We are on lesson 3 and we are today placing fractions on a number line. Yay! So what am I looking for? Okay, ladies and gents, I can read intervals or the sections on a number line. I can count up and down in fraction steps, maybe steps of a quarter, a half, a fifth along a number line. Find missing fractions in a sequence that are placed on a number line. And the vocabulary, fraction, numerator, denominator, and introducing intervals, number line, sequence, and order. Right, shall we get started? Discover. As per usual, let's look at the information that's been given. Okay, so we've got 2 people here. It looks like maybe a grown-up, maybe a son. So we've got Max, and let's say that's his dad. We've got a bit of a problem here. The ceiling is leaking in 2 places. So if we take a look at Dad, he's got a red bucket here and it looks like it's full of water. Now Max, on the other hand, seems to be holding a jug, and on that jug is a scale. I guess it's like a number line. At the bottom is 0, at the top is 2, so we don't really know the units to which the measure is here, but using my knowledge of capacity, measuring liquid, I'm guessing it could be millilitres, it could be litres. Who knows? Now I'm just anticipating here the intervals, the sections in between the 0 and 2, and it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like there are 8 sections between 0 and 2. So I'm guessing whatever the unit is, there has to be halfway between 0 and 2 is 1. So between 0 and 8 sections, that will be on the 4th section. So whatever unit we're measuring in, here halfway between 0 and 2 is the 1. So I wonder what exactly we're dealing with here. Let's have a look. Right, the ceiling on Max's side of the room drips a quarter of a litre of water every hour, I beg your pardon. So the ceiling on Max's side of the room drips a quarter of a litre of water every hour. So he's starting to measure the amount dripping. So let's see what the problem is. Okay, so if we've got a quarter of a litre dripping into Max's jug, that's happening every 60 minutes. I'm cool with that. So every hour or 60 minutes, a quarter of a litre. Now, according to this information, it makes sense. Max has already collected half a litre of water in his jug. So here on this scale, these 2 intervals represents half a litre. So one interval there has got to be a quarter of a litre. So the units that we're dealing with here are litres. And a litre is 1,000 millilitres. Okay, so with that in mind, let's have a look and see how half a litre an hour looks like. Oh yeah, so that's the same as a quarter and a quarter. In other words, after 2 hours of dripping, oh my goodness me, Max has collected half a litre, 2 lots of a quarter. We're good with that. So what's the problem? What's the question? How many litres of water will be in Max's jug after, oh, this is key, another 3 hours? So it's not after 3 hours, after another 3 hours, bearing in mind there's already half a litre in his jug. So how would we tackle that? Well, according to the information, the advice here in the share, Max's jug contains the half a litre of water already to start with. So I guess if we're trying to find out after another 3 hours, we've got to start from half and then we count up in our quarters. So let's have a look at that on a number line. What have we got here? Okay, representation in terms of the jug, in terms of 1 litre here in the middle, 2 litres at the end of the number line, and we've got an empty jug at the start. Okay, so if we start at 0, that would be fine ordinarily if there was nothing in the jug. But according to the information, we already have half a litre of water in the jug. So that is where we're going to start. We're going to start counting in quarters from a half. Let's do it. Okay, so after 1 hour, a quarter of a litre. So that will take us up to 3/4 of a litre in Max's jug. After 2 hours, it looks like another 1/4 of a litre, which takes us up to 1 whole litre. And after 3 hours, it looks to me, having counted a quarter 3 times from a half, we've ended with 1 1/4 litres of water. Oh my goodness me. So there will be 1 1/4 litres of water in Max's jug after the 3 hours has elapsed. All right, we're good with that. So what about this discover? Max collects 5 3/4 litres of water in total, but his dad collects 5 4/5 of litres of water in total. So use the number line to work out who has collected most water. So you're comparing fraction sizes here, and number lines are really good to compare. Okay, let's have a look. I know that both those amounts lie between the integers 5 and 6. And I know that we can compare using number lines divided firstly into quarters because of Max's amount that's been collected, and then the second number line into fifths because of what Dad's bucket has collected. So let's have a look at that on a number line. Here's Max, all right? 5 in steps of a quarter and 6. So according to this number line, we have got equal quarter parts, all right? So between 5 and 6 litres, we have split this number line into 4 equal parts, each interval representing a quarter at a time. And here is the amount that Max has collected in water, all right? 5 3/4 litres. Compared to Dad, same length of number line. Okay, we start with the integer 5 and the integer 6, but this time we're dealing in fifths because we need to split the same length of line as Max's into 5 equal intervals. So this interval represents a jump of a fifth and another fifth, taking us to 5 2/5 litres, 5 3/5, and so on. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. In other words, we've split our number line equally into 5 equal parts. And according to this, Dad's amount of water collected, 5 4/5 here. And if we compare, because the number lines are the same length, but split into their respective fractions, it looks to me that Dad has collected more than Max. So it says use the number line to show who collected most of the water. And you can see here, look, there's more, a huge amount more there. So the answer to the question is 5 4/5, I beg your pardon, is bigger than 5 3/4. So Max's dad has collected the most water. All good. All right, let's think together. Now, Danny is running a bath, hopefully not leaking, and there are 2 litres of water in the bath already. Now, according to this information, it fills up at a rate of 1/3 of a litre each second. So we're dealing in seconds now, not hours. How many litres are in the bath after 8 seconds? Right, so there's lots of information in this question, lots of parts to this question. So let's have a look. 2 litres of water in the bath already. So we're not starting from 0, we're starting from the integer 2. Okay, it fills up at a rate third, so we're dealing in threes. The denominator is 3, so sections of 3, and that's per second. And then the question, of course, is really important. How many litres in the bath after 8 seconds? Well, because we're talking about number lines, let's have a look and think about where the number line will start. Well, there's our number line, okay. I've got sections here. We'll have a look and see what those sections are, those intervals are shortly. We're going to start our number line at 2 litres because that's the number, the amount, I beg your pardon, of water that's already in the bath. What will each interval, each section of the number line, equal section, what will it represent? Well, per second, each section is going to increase, ascend, get bigger by 1/3. All right, so each interval represents 1/3. Now, we are going to have a look at the bath after 8 seconds. So I guess that's 8 jumps of a third. So we've got one here. All right, start with 2, 2 plus 1/3. So after the first second, 2 1/3 litres. And then we've got another third. So that's 2 2/3 litres. And another third, 2 3/3, or 3 litres. After another third, we've got 3 1/3 litres in the bath, another third, 3 2/3 litres in the bath, another third, 3 3/3, or 4, you've guessed it, plus another third gives us 4 1/3 litres in the bath, and a final jump of a third gives us 4 2/3. So let me just check that information. Apparently it's after 8 seconds at a third per second, so I should have 8 jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like after 8 seconds at a rate of a third of a litre per second, that the bath that Danny's running has a capacity of 4 2/3 litres. So happy with that. Now, what numbers are missing from the number line? Here's a clue. You're dealing in fifths, so look at the denominator for clues. And it looks like there are intervals here, okay, between the integer here and 7 1/5, and then some more intervals where the numbers are missing. I wonder what those numbers are. Pause the video and then we'll go through some answers. Okay, so before you paused, the question was, what numbers are missing from the number line? And I've given you a clue in red because you are dealing in fifths here. So of course, each interval is going to represent a fifth. You've been given some information already. Okay, so you need to work out these missing intervals. What numbers would they be? Okay, what's missing? So let's have a look. Okay, I know that between 7 and 7 1/5, we have a jump of a fifth. Okay, between 7 and 1/5, we have another jump of a fifth, and that will be 7 2/5. 7 3/5. And that works out because after 7 3/5 becomes 7 4/5 when you add a fifth. So what next? Okay, we've got our 7 5/5, but we don't say 7 5/5 because that takes that over to the next unit, which is of course 8. We add a fifth to 8, 8 1/5, add another fifth, we've got that information already, 8 3/5, 8 4/5, and then of course the next jump will take us through to 9. All good. So what about the numbers missing on the bottom number line? Here's a clue. Okay, there are 16 intervals between the integers 11 at the start of the number line and 15 at the end. So the difference between those two numbers is 4. So I have then split 16 into 4 equal parts. So each interval has got to mean a quarter. Stop the video, pause the video, have a little go at filling in the numbers on the number line, and then come back to me and let's have a look and see what our answers are. Okay? Right. Hopefully you've had a little go at finding out the missing numbers on this number line, and there are a huge number. So, like I said before you pause the video, there are 16 intervals, and between 11 and 15 there are 4. It's a difference of 4. So I have split 16 intervals to 4 equal parts. So I think each interval will represent a quarter. So let's have a look at the jumps. If we do jump in a quarter each time, starting from 11. Okay, 11, add a quarter, 11 1/4. Let's keep going. Maybe you can shout out the numbers rather than me as we jump each time in a quarter. Okay, what's next? Okay, let's pick this up together. Next will be 13 3/4. And then we've got 13 4/4 or 14. 14 1/4, 14 1/2, 14 3/4, and finally 15. So the numbers that are missing are all those that are in red because the number line increases in increments of a quarter. A quarter. They have intervals of a quarter. Okay. I hope you kind of got your head around that because I've got one final challenge before independent work. Let's think together. Righty-ho, what have we got here? We've got a number line and there's an arrow, and you can bet your life the arrow is going to say, or the question is referring to the arrow, what is that number on the number line? So let's have a look at some questions. There are 3 altogether. So what number, we were right, is the arrow pointing to? What is 2/5 more than the number the arrow is pointing to? Finally, what is 1/5 less than the number the arrow is pointing to? I'd like you just to pause the video, have a go at answering those 3 questions, pop the answers down in your yellow maths books under your little notes section, I guess, and then we'll come back together and we'll share some answers. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, so back with me. Before you paused, I asked you 3 questions. What number is the arrow pointing to? What's 2/5 more than that number? And then what is 1/5 less? So let's see how you got on. All right, so apparently the number that is being pointed to is between 5 and 6, so not quite at 6, so it's going to be 5 something. And it looks to me like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals. So that's got to be fifths. So if in terms they are fifths, this must be 5 and 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. This must be 5 and 4/5 because 5 and 5/5 is 6. So the number is pointing to 5 and 4/5. Hope you got that right. Give yourself a tick. And it's asking you if this is 5 and 4/5. Question B, what is 2/5 more? Well, we know each interval is a fifth, so a jump to 6 will be 1/5, and another jump, so that will be the 2 jumps of 2/5, 1/5, 2/5 would be here, which would be 5th. Hey, give yourself a tick if you got that. And finally, C, what is 1/5 less than the number that the arrow is pointing to? So let's flip back to 5 and 4/5. And again, we're counting back along. We're counting down the number line, this time in intervals of fifths. So we've got 5 and 4/5 here. 1/5 counted back will be 5 and 3/5. Okay. Today's work, fractions on a number line. Obviously pause the video so that you can look at the questions and you can have a go at recording the answers in your book. I guess where you can, it would be great for you to have a go at drawing the number line. There are some tricky number lines to draw here, so don't get hung up on it, but it's good practice, very good practice for secondary school. And then once you've completed this work, the reflect is really important. And just a note about reflect, in yesterday's reflect, I was really interested to see how you would get the phrase common factor into your answers. Now, this isn't applicable to today's work, but it's important that you watch the video all the way through because a lot of the vocabulary that I use in my lesson presentation is, I guess, going to come up in the reflect. So I'm interested today in hearing maybe in your how do you know section, the use of intervals, jumps, count on, count back, fractions. So make sure that you use that key vocabulary that I introduced at the start of the lesson in your reflect. That's what I'm looking for today. And then finally, if you fancy a greater depth challenge, we've got some number lines and we've got placing fractions, mixed number fractions on the number line. Okay, and then a what do you notice about the distances? So there's like an observational question. Lots and lots to consider. Well done, people. So that's today's lesson, lesson 3 on fractions on a number line, complete. Can't wait to see your work. Don't forget to take photographs. Don't forget neat, clearly presented work with correctly formed digits. Yeah, good luck. You know where I am if you need a hand. See you soon. Bye.